mainly what this episode was about. However, you could argue that, or I guess the scenes between Jon Snow and Daenerys. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on another episode of Sight and Sound TV. We're talking about Season 7, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones. It's called The Queen's Justice. That's exactly what we're going to talk about here tonight, or today, depending on when you're listening to this. Hi, Jay Williams. How are you? Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on another episode of Sight and Sound TV. We're talking about Season 7, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones.
That is
It's called The Queen's Justice. That's exactly what we're going to talk about here tonight or today, depending on when you're listening to this. Hi, Jay Williams. How are you? Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It's definitely a pro of the situation, even though TV, that's a pro of the situation, but that's not a deciding factor. Game of Thrones at hand today. It's called The Queen's Justice. It's certainly not something that I'm going to talk about here tonight or today, depending on when you're listening to this. Hi, Jay Williams. How are you? Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It's definitely a pro of the situation, even though that's a pro of the situation, but that's not a decisive Game of Thrones at hand today. But yeah, it's certainly not exactly what I'm going to talk about here tonight. Yeah, we are apart, but that's okay because we both watched this episode. I mean, it would have been a nightmare if one of us had not watched it. But yeah,
we've also spent way too much time together this weekend.
I think you're the only person saying that. I wasn't gonna go there.
I was just kidding, but maybe maybe I'm not. Okay.
Talk about being honest. Shit.
I want to address something real quick before you go. Shut the hell up. So I have talked to a handful of people. Okay, this is our first time doing this, recapping Game of Thrones. I've talked to quite a few people that weren't feeling the first 2 episodes. Have you heard any of this at all?
I have, particularly after the premiere episode of this season. A lot of people, especially the people that I work with, they were all kind of meh about it. And I'm like, are you serious? What show are you watching? I mean, I know. There's clearly a difference. Like, episode 2, last week's episode, was a lot more eventful, a lot more action, made a bigger impact on me. But, I mean, the premiere was great too. I mean, it was. I don't know what the complaints are, especially when, I mean, compare season 7's premiere to like any other Game of Thrones episode. I mean, why is it glaringly worse? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, again, we haven't been doing this for very long, but and maybe I just need to dive more into like the psychology of what most Game of Thrones fans are even looking for. But I mean, I just thought they were great. Like. And let's tell people too, like, we're not like, we have no reason to be shills of this show. Like, in fact, I actually have issues with this episode. My first issues come with this episode, but up until now, I just think it's been a 100% grand slam. Like, I've had no issues with the first 2 episodes at all.
Right, and there were a couple of conversations that I had again about the premiere. One person in particular that I was talking to asked me, like, why was the scene at the end of, like, when Daenerys approaches the beach and climbs the stairs to Dragonstone, why was it so quiet? Why did nothing happen? And so what is that place to her? And I was like, well, she was born there, and I basically had to give her the reasons why that scene was good. And then she just said, oh, okay, I get it now. And again, I'm not even claiming that there's no way in hell that I could consider myself one of the smartest Game of Thrones audience members, because I'm certainly not. But I guess that there are some people that things just don't register completely. So they had a meh interpretation of the episode, and then I think they felt better about it when I just informed them a little bit about it. So I don't know. It was strange.
Well, clearly they just need to listen to this podcast. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to like ruin anybody's fun or make fun of anybody, but I do think it has to be said that this show has a lot of crossover appeal. It has a lot of crossover appeal to people that typically, we've talked about this already, that people might not take in content like this on a regular basis, especially stuff that's this this complex, this widespread in terms of the geography that it covers, intricate plot lines, all of those things. So, you know, I'm trying to dance around this, but I think some people are just dumb. Is that fair to say? Or is that too harsh?
I mean, it's whether we're talking about Game of Thrones or not. Yeah, some people are just dumb. So it might be, but I'm not saying that if you don't understand everything in Game of Thrones that you're dumb, because
if you
Again, I there are plenty of things that have gone way over my head. I mean, I was talking about it today.
That's clearly not what I was saying, but there's really no other way around it. Like, it was kind of a shitty thing to say.
It was a shitty thing.
But it's also kind of true.
I
mean, it is.
I know what you mean. But even today, for example, just to make myself look stupid, because I feel like I have to do that now because of you. But I was talking about...
Because of me?
Yeah, because...
You're the ones who people are correcting in the comments. Well, clearly Dragonstone is the furthest north on the map.
Hey, I'm just saying. I don't want to start off this episode on some high horse, because that's not how I want to start off the episode.
There is no high horse. Yeah, let's just get that. I'm going to forget at least 30 people's names in this episode.
But just today I was talking about how... the recasting of Dario, like I think it was like from season 4 to season 5, I think, threw me off entirely. I had no idea that they were the same character, because they were just two completely different people. And yeah, and the mountain has been recasted like 3 times, and I've never even noticed it. So there's some dumb things about me. But anyway, let's talk about the Queen's Justice. This episode, I think of the 3 so far, my least favorite, but I think it's just interesting in different ways, right? So we finally, in this episode, the title should have told us, the Queen's Justice, that it was going to be more about Cersei and things that are happening from the viewpoint of King's Landing and Casterly Rock, and that was certainly a viewpoint that we needed, because we only got a couple of scenes here and there in the previous 2 episodes. So that was mainly what this episode was about. However, you could argue that, or I guess the scenes between Jon Snow and Daenerys certainly contested the importance of Cersei's scenes, because they were, I mean, we talked about how it affected us when Jon Snow met Sansa again for the first time. But talk about these. I mean, the meeting of fire and ice. This was a huge moment, Jay.
Yeah, it was, because that's what the story's called, right?
Right. A Song of Ice and Fire is what the first Game of Thrones book is called, or that's what the name of the series is called. Excuse me. The first book is called Game of Thrones.
A dinner of cold and hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we keep coming back to this point, but it is the case. I mean, anytime we get these meetings of people, and it's a very exciting time. I'm going to go back on what you said in terms of it was your least favorite of the 3, and I don't know if I share those sentiments, mainly because I think they've all been good. Like, there really is no way for me to really rank them. I've just thoroughly enjoyed watching all 3 of them. This is the only episode, though, that I've had. I had one major issue. It's my first major issue of the season. I'm sure we'll get into it. But as a whole, I actually really did enjoy this episode. I was surprised. I know we don't like to just go straight recap style, but the opening scene, I was actually a little shocked how quickly Jon Snow and Daenerys were meeting. Like, I mean, I was just like, oh shit, they're there. They're actually face to face with each other. So that took you a little bit by surprise?
Definitely. I mean, that could have happened like in another, like 2 more episodes, and it would have.
I thought we were going to get in like the finale,
right? I mean, it could have been a finale moment, but if you think about it, like, just based on the scene that we got last week that sort of prefaced this whole thing, I mean, it makes sense that this is. I mean, why would we get another scene of them contemplating going to Dragonstone? So it makes sense, but it did throw me off slightly, especially because we were I mean, it could have been the end of the episode, you know? Like, it could have still had a similar effect having been the final scene of the episode. But I mean, we got started right away here. And yeah, it was great. And I guess my sort of complaint, it's not really, it's not a judgment on the episode. It's something that I was feeling during that scene. I talked about this Emilia Clarke phase that I'm in right now. Last night I watched Terminator Genesis just so I could watch her do things on screen before we got to Game of Thrones. And I think for the first time in that first meeting, Daenerys annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, that's part of what we've talked about it the past several weeks about the show. It's that, where we're at is which threat is greater. Cersei and, taking over the throne, or the White Walkers. And that's the big debate. And that's the central point of discussion amongst these two people. And I was so much just wanting to shake Daenerys because I know of the threat of of course she does not, but I know, and and the rest of the audience knows about the White Walkers. So we're really kind of like Sir Davos in that scene, right? Like we're the ones that, and I love my Davos, but that's who we are in the scene. We're Davos. Like, we're trying to back up Jon Snow. Like, yes, Daenerys, this is what you should be paying attention to. So every time Daenerys opened her mouth, like shutting him down, I got really upset. It's like, you can just work together. He doesn't have to bend the knee. So,
yeah.
I mean, and it was a great scene because I was involved in that way,
I think the biggest thing that two things that I took away from that scene. First of all, that was a really long scene. I looked at the clock on I watch on HBO now, and from the time that he landed on the beach to the time that he left that throne room, it had been 20 minutes of the episode.
Awesome.
And it's crazy. I'm very thankful for it. There's no real criticism there. I had no issue. The person who really stood out in this episode to me, mainly because I don't think we've gotten a ton from this person, was Tyrion. I mean, yeah. Tyrion had some incredible moments, and I think it's just a reminder to me, and I'm sure so many other people, is just how far his journey has been. I mean, my God, he's been fucking everywhere. And there's also just a ton of special moments that us as audience members that we're privy to, like the fact that a dragon flies overhead and Jon Snow is seeing the dragon for the first time, and he's just like, holy shit, this is
right.
crazy. But also in that scene, I don't know if you picked up on this at all, but he's got he's got the last name of a Targaryen in his running through his blood. Well, he doesn't have it now, but he's got blood running through them. I'm curious of whether or not we're actually going to see some sort of connection with those dragons. Have you thought about that at all?
I haven't. I was actually every time I saw that
why is me getting a laptop important information for Sight and Sound? That is a great question. The whole reason I wanted to get a laptop in general has a lot to do with Sight and Sound. The computer setup I have right now, I currently run a Mac Mini. It is a desktop computer. I'm a Mac user. I've been a Mac user for a long time now, probably for, I guess the last 12 years, if not longer. And if anybody out there has ever wanted a Mac, but maybe the price point hasn't really been something, or it's been something that's turned you away, maybe you have thought to yourself, I can't afford a Mac. I get that 100%. I really, really do. But a lot of people don't know about the Mac Mini option. The Mac Mini is a desktop computer that is it has great specs. It has fantastic specs. And it starts, I think, as low as $500, I believe, is the lowest that it starts. Mine, I actually have an upgraded one, so mine was about $700, and it's essentially you just get the box itself, the CPU, I guess. And I almost said tower, but it's not a tower. It's literally a box, a flat box, I guess. And it's cheaper because you have to provide the monitor, you have to provide the peripherals, you have to provide the mouse or trackpad and keyboard. But I already have